everybody, KC0VI Tom here, along with Smokey, one of my dad's cats that kind of moved in on me. The middle of November, it was a gorgeous weekend here, and a lot of people got the yard work done. All the crops are in out of the field. A lot of the people have their snow blowers ready, shovels are ready. Everybody's gone around and found their coats, their hats, their mittens, their mucklucks, their boots, and are ready to go. This week we're supposed to get up to 3 inches of snow by Friday morning. Half inch here, half inch there throughout the week. Just some small dusting going on. I still need one more day to get my snowblower going. It's almost ready. Just minor touch up, change oil in, but it'll be fine. The ground is still fairly warm, and it's not going to melt that much. If you've been paying attention to the news, they're already starting to scream about the cost of energy this year is going to be up by 8%, 10%, could be. They always do this. They always say gloom and doom, and in reality, by the time we get into springtime, it'll be only like 2% if it's a mild winter, 5% if it's a cold winter. But yeah, it is going to be an increase in cost of energy, and what we want to talk about today is how we can save a little money here and there. The other thing that we were really talking about was the shortage, or not really a shortage, but the inventory of diesel or fuel oil is down to 25 days at one point. This time of year, we just got done with a major harvest, and a lot of diesel fuel and fuel oil is used in the harvest, and that's what happens. I mean, diesel fuel and gasoline, when you distill a drum of crude oil, 55 gallons of oil in a drum, it's like a teeter-totter. If you want a lot of gasoline, you get very little fuel oil. If you want a lot of fuel oil, you get a little bit of gasoline. And it's a trade-off, what's going on. And what had happened this year, talking to some of the farmers in the area, the corn and soybean harvest was very good. I mean, these guys are surprised the number of bushels they did get out of their fields. We're in the midst of a drought here. It was very little rainfall, and the corn, the bushels were up there. It wasn't record-setting, but it was more than what they expected. The quality of the grain was good. The moisture content was low, so they didn't have to run the corn dryers. One good thing about that is we got a little abundant of propane in the area, and the price is starting to fall. Not fast, but it's falling. It's a good sign. And normally what happens is you get a demand for diesel fuel oil for the tractors and the combines out in the field, and small trucks that run from the field to the farm site, dump the grain off into storage. Then we'll have bigger trucks or semis that pick up the grain from the farm site, take it to the elevator. And from the elevator, it usually go from a railroad to the river to get loaded on barges, be taken away for processing. Well, this year with the drought, the Mississippi shut down early for grain traffic. A lot of the tow companies, barge companies, kind of got caught short. They got barges stranded up and down the river. It's too shallow to recover some of these. So there was a larger demand for fuel oil, diesel products for railroad, and it just caught the oil industry a little bit off. They weren't expecting that, and a lot of people didn't realize how dry the Mississippi was until the last month. We got into October, and it was like, oh, traffic is shutting down in the Minneapolis area. But so the inventory is coming up. Give it a couple more weeks, it'll be back to normal. Normally this time of year, there's usually an 80-day supply. And like I said, that's how much more it took to finish the harvest in. So one thing that we can do to help offset these energy pricing is actually go through your house. And first thing you want to make sure is you have a working smoke detector and a working carbon monoxide detector on every level of your house for me. Do that and we'll be good friends. Also, where your furnace is at, depending on what type of fuel you're using, you want to pick up a explosive gas detector. If you're running natural gas is lighter than air. If you're getting a leak in there, it's going to flow up to the top of the room. And the instructions on these detectors will tell you to mount it up high. If you're using propane, mount it low, because propane is heavier than air and it'll float down to the floor. If you're using fuel oil, I can't help you there. It's just kitty litter in the corner and just spread it around, I guess. But but it's important to have those safeties in place so nothing bad's going to happen to you. Now, to understand humidity in your house, first thing you have to do is get one of these freestanding temperature display units that has humidity built into it. There are some analog versions like this one here, and there's also some digital ones. You really don't need a digital one unless you like to, get right down to the brass tacks. But you need something like this when you start playing around with that humidity in the air in your house, you can actually see what's going on. Want to make sure that you have a tight house. Go around the house and make sure that all the cracks, crevices, weather stripped around the doors, windows are in good shape. Fill the holes up. If you have some poor windows, use some of that 3M, not 3M, but any type of window covering. The type that you stretch over with special tape, you hit it with the hair dryer to tighten it up. What you want to do is stop the cold air coming in and the warm air leaving. Also, if you got a door you really don't use in the wintertime, put some of that over. House I used to own up in Austin, the first couple of winters, the windows were pretty bad. Really couldn't afford to replace them, so what I ended up doing is going to the lumber store and picking up what they call tough hour insulation. It was 3/4 inch foam board with a layer of tinfoil glued on both sides. I just cut it down to size to fit in the window cavity, duct taped the edges up to protect the foam, spray painted it black, labeled what window it was, and stuck it in there. It kept the rooms nice and warm, blocked all the sunlight, but you know, kids didn't mind. They slept in every day. So make sure you got a good tight house. Then we can start controlling how much gas we're going to be burning and how much humidity is in the air. Why? Because it's real important. Your body has a very good cooling device built into it. You have a little bit of perspiration or moisture on your skin, and when that evaporates, it cools your body down. So so what you want to do is make sure that you have proper humidity in your rooms. EPA and ASHR is the industrial representing group of the HVAC community, and along with some design engineers and other sciences. They recommend 40 to 60% relative humidity in your homes. Unfortunately, here in North America, with the building techniques and the cold temperatures, we don't get to that. Normally you see homes around here running in the 30% range. So something to keep in mind. We don't want to ruin the house by too much humidity, but we want to be nice and warm. Now, humidity, when you listen to the weather reports or listen to somebody like me talk about how much relative humidity you should have in your home, what you end up doing is relative humidity is the amount of moisture in the air compared to what it could be holding. Okay, so if we're at 70 degrees and 50% humidity, that means that the air is only holding half of what it could hold. Not a very good unit of measure due to the fact that humidity can be affected by temperature change. We should be using what we call grains. The problem is with grains, that's you need what's known as a psychrometric table. There's a bunch of guys out there just cringing about that, former students. Also, we got to talk about dew point. Dew point is the temperature in which moisture will start condensing out of the air onto a material, the surface. A good example of that is, everybody's seen this happen before. You get done working outside in the summertime, you go in the house, get your favorite beverage, you go out, sit in your lawn chair, you open up your can or bottle, or pour your drink on a glass. You notice that moisture will start forming on the outside of that glass or that container, due to the fact that that surface temperature is below the dew point. Bars, restaurants, keep an eye on this very closely, because what can happen there, your plates, your silverware, your glasses can have moisture on them, they get slippery, and customers would drop them. Not a good thing. So, now that we know a little terminology, a little science class, when we start talking about humidity, the thing to remember is warm air will hold more humidity than dry or cool air. Warm air holds a lot, cool air holds a little bit. And that can be affected by temperature change. So what we can do is take a room, say this room here we're in, we'll say it's 70 degrees at 50% relative humidity. Grains will be roughly, look at my cheat sheet, 54 grains, and the dew point would be about 50 degrees, just by sheer coincidence. Okay, now if we did nothing except add humidity to the room, we're going to keep it at 70, but we jacked up to 80% relative humidity. It's going to be uncomfortable. People are going to, it's going to be warm, it's not going to feel good, you're going to be cranky, due to the fact that moisture on your skin cannot evaporate off. If we went the other direction, say we took the relative humidity down to 20%, everybody in that room is going to be cold, because now your perspiration on your skin is evaporating at a very high rate. It's causing a cooling effect, and everybody's going to be cold, unless you like being cold. Some of the side effects on a dry room like that is, you get up in the morning, your nose is dried out and your mouth is dried out. If you walk across the carpeting, reach for the doorknob, you have a big static discharge. If you have houseplants, you're going to have to water them more because they're losing moisture. And if you have a fish tank, you may notice that your water level is dropping down a bit. You don't have a leak, it's just evaporating out of there. On the other side, if we have too much humidity in the room, what can happen is you'll see condensation starting to come out of the windows like this. It's just a little bit of beating of water on the surface, on that glass, due to the fact that that glass is below the dew point. Now, also, you'll notice that you may have some mold or mildew starting to form on the walls. Inside the ductwork, you won't be able to see it, but all that dust and dirt inside your ductwork with that moisture now is the nice little happy breeding ground for mold, bacteria, and other nasties that you don't want in your house. Good reason why to have your ductwork vacuumed out once every 10 years or after a major remodeling. Now, say we're going to work on that humidity in the room. We're going to take the room, again, we're at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 50% relative humidity, our grains are about 54, our dew point's at 50. We're going to warm the room up to say 90 degrees. We're not going to add or remove any humidity. Now, again, since warm air can hold more water, our relative humidity dropped. It went down to 25. Grains are still at 52, 54, our dew point's still at 50. Let's go the other way. Let's drop that room temperature down to 50 degrees. Now, our relative humidity jumped up to 100%. Grains are still at 52, 54, and now the dew point is at 50, still at 50, which means any surface material in that room is going to have moisture starting to condense out onto it, and it's going to be a mess. That's why it's important to kind of remember some of the stuff in the background. When you're working your home, what we want to do is make sure we got enough humidity going on in the room, because if it's a dry house, what's going to happen, say we're at 70 degrees Fahrenheit and we're down at 20% relative humidity, that moisture is evaporating fast off your skin. It's going to feel cold. What's the first thing people do? Walk over and crank up the thermostat 2 degrees. Now we're at 70. Warm the room up, humidity drops even further, cooling the body faster, so you may got to go up to 72, then 74, then 76. You get to a point where that room temperature is warm enough after your body's going through the cooling effect, you're comfortable. And what we can do there, you're going to be using a lot of fuel, but you're comfortable. Let's go the other way. Let's add humidity to there so we can actually bring down the temperature, your set point, or your room setting. So a lot of stuff you can do it this way. How do we add humidity to the room? Well, we have different types of humidifiers. If you're using forced air, you can use what is known as a whole house humidifier. There are a couple different major types out there. There's a drum style. It's got a round drum with foam that runs in a reservoir of water. That water needs to be drained once a month to keep it clean. We have a sprayer style that sprays this fine mist of air into the ductwork. Usually there's a foam pad in there to collect it, and they'll have a catch pan underneath it with a drain on it. There's also a slab where the water is trickled down the top of the slab to the bottom where there's a catch pan, then it goes down the floor drain. Something new in the market is what they call a steamer. It's a little steam generator, boils out the water, and that steam goes directly into the airflow. And there's a few other styles out there, but they're not too popular. Controls are usually a manual control. A humidistat is mounted next to the thermostat in the house. Every morning you check the temperature, the predicted high for the day, and you set the dial on the humidistat to that level. Every day you got to adjust it. You're checking your windows, make sure you don't have any condensate on. You got a little condensate, remove a couple of degrees from that high set point to compensate. Or if you have no condensate, add a couple of degrees to it, because your house is a little better. Usually what happens after about a week or a week and a half, people get tired of it and you just leave it, and now the humidifier is not really working. The other method we have is what we call an auto control, where you mount a temperature probe outside, a humidity sensor in the ductwork, and you set it, say, at 30% relative humidity. And if you got moisture on the bottom of your windows, you back it down a little bit, or if you don't have it, you go up a little bit until you get to that point and just back it off a little bit. It takes about a week, but then once you get your numbers dialed in, you're set. With the temperatures running, again, 68, 70 degrees, whatever you're comfortable with, a setback thermostat may not save you a lot of money like some people believe. Some people say they don't, some people say they do. It's something you just have to play around with yourself. What I do, I run my house at 65 degrees. In the morning when I get up to get ready for work, I crank it up to 68. It's only a 3-degree increase, but you get that nice warm air out of the ductwork, out of the furnace system. It's more psychological than anything else. I'm heading out the door, I shut down the thermostat back to 65. When I come home, I set it back up to 68. Again, more psychological than money saving. With the house running like 32% humidity, it feels nice and comfortable. You can actually back off in your set point, lower that temperature, save a little bit of money until you get to that nice point of temperature and humidity where you're comfortable. So on that, just by playing around a little bit with a whole house humidifier, you can save some money and be comfortable. But what happens if you've got baseboard heat, or you don't have money right now to put in a whole house humidifier? You can buy one of these freestanding humidifiers. They look like an end table. They got a large drum with a fan, and that drum goes dips into water and gets the surface of the drum wet, and that fan blows air across and evaporates into the house. Again, something like that you can use, and it will add humidity to the air. It's a little slower process than a whole house one, because it's only going to satisfy the humidity needs in that one room until the airflow can take that humidity throughout the rest of the house. Now, all humidifiers need maintenance. When water evaporates, it leaves behind the minerals in the water, which can build up a lot of scale and other stuff. So that's why a lot of shops don't want to install them, because they know the homeowner's not going to pay them to come out and do an annual cleaning of the humidifier so it's set up right. They're not going to do it themselves, so the system's not going to work right, and then they'll have problems. A good example of that, when I was teaching, I had a student, we were at the end of the class day, and he made a comment that a buddy of his bought this house, and they noticed the last couple of days there was a lot of humidity in the house. My first reaction is, oh wow, broken heat exchanger, crack in the heat exchanger, getting all that exhaust gas into the house, which is highly, has a lot of moisture in it. You know, we were talking about things to check on. The whole class was getting involved, and he borrowed a combustion analyzer that has a real sensitive CO detector in it. Got to, you know, he started up outside, went in the house, very little CO. I go, oh, that's interesting. When they were looking around the house, you know, water trickling on the windows. His wife had laid towels underneath the glass on top of the you know, windowsill to catch the water so it wasn't ruining the furniture or the woodwork. They went downstairs, and he said, I knew I was in trouble because water was coming out of the front of the furnace. And he turned to his buddy and says, you thought you said you didn't have an humidifier. You go, I don't see one. This humidifier is actually mounted on the back side of the furnace, and it was the older spray style. It's got like a car wash wand nozzle that sprays a mist of water onto a foam pad, and when the furnace kicks on, it blows that hot air out of the furnace through that foam and back in the return ductwork. And what had happened, that foam had deteriorated, and when that fell apart, the nozzle got moved out its normal location. It actually had fallen into the furnace, so it was spraying a mist of water onto the heat exchanger. It was, you know, spraying it, and when the furnace would turn on, it would start spraying. As soon as the heat exchanger got warm enough, it melted, or the water evaporated, and you know, and the house got to set point, the furnace shut off. Whoever installed the humidifier, they put it again in a bad location, so you couldn't see it, you couldn't do maintenance on it. And what had happened, some calcium deposit, mineral deposit formed in the water valve and stuck the valve open, so it was running all the time. You know, so kind of a funny story, but it's, you know, it's what happens if you don't do proper maintenance on it. On that, everybody have a safe and fun fall. Be sure to tell your friends, neighbors, other hams. Subscribe, hit that bell to get notification when new videos come out. Add comments below. 7-3 everybody. Okay, here we go. I'm going to try this and not screw up.